imagine stepping into a home that looks like any other on the outside. A modest duplex tucked into a quiet neighborhood of West Pittston, Pennsylvania. The lawn is neat, the siding is faded with age, the windows are plain but welcoming. If you were a neighbor in 1970s, you'd never have guessed that behind these walls, something darker than imagination would unfold. But once inside, the air changes. The space feels heavy. The silence isn't just silence, it's charged, as if the house itself is holding its breath. At first, you might think that there's just being paranoid. The faint stench of something rotten lingers in the air. Maybe garbage, maybe a dead mouse in the walls. But no matter how many times you clean it, it returns, stronger. Sulfur mixed with blood, mixed with decay. And then it begins, a soft tap, just one from upstairs. You ignore it. Then another. Then a string of them, moving deliberately down the hallway. Footsteps, except you know the rooms upstairs are empty. The shadows stretch longer than they should. Corners of the house seem darker than the rest, as if light avoids them. A growl reverberates through the walls, deep and animal. But there's no dog inside. It rattles your bones before fading away. This isn't just a haunted house, it's a siege, and for more than a decade, the Smurl family have endured it. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Or if it's your first time here, welcome to the channel. My name is Andrew, and today we're talking about the Smurl family. This was a pretty... It's the basis for the new Conjuring movie. But yeah, without any further ado, if you like what we do here, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know down below what you think of the story. And as always, let's get into it. Also, this is my second time recording this video. I got super bad heartburn earlier and had to stop and go walk around for a little bit and get my stomach settled down, but we're good now, so hopefully we'll be able to jump right back into this and carry it all the way through. Anyways, part 1. The haunting of the Smurl family began like so many other classic paranormal tales, with a family just trying to build a life. Jack and Janet Smurl were working class, devoutly Catholic, and deeply family-oriented. Jack grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and had a reputation for being hardworking and reliable. Janet was quiet but strong-willed, raising their daughters with discipline and faith. By the early 1970s, Jack and Janet had 4 children: Dawn, Heather, Shannon, and Karen. Like many families in northern Pennsylvania, they were recovering from a disaster. In 1972, Hurricane Agnes had ravaged the region, leaving whole communities underwater. The flood displaced tens of thousands of people, and the Smurls were among them. When the chance came to move to a duplex at 330 Chase Street in West Pittston in 1973, it seemed like an opportunity for a fresh start. The arrangement was perfect. Jack and Janet and their daughters would live on one side, and Jack's parents, John and Mary, would live on the other. The house wasn't new. It was built in mid-19th century and had gone through several owners. It was affordable, practical, and in a neighborhood where everyone knew each other. It was a chance to build their lives after tragedy. For the first few months, everything seemed normal, but then the cracks began to show. It started subtly. A stain appeared on the walls, dark and brown, even though Janet had freshly painted it just days before. She scrubbed it, repainted it, only to have it return. Then came the smells. At first, faint and fleeting, like something spoiled, but soon they grew stronger, overwhelming the family at odd hours. Sulfur, rotten eggs, sewage. No matter how often Janet cleaned, the stench would return. Appliances began to malfunction. The TV switched channels on its own, blaring static, radios turning off mid-song. The family chalked it up to faulty wiring, but inspections revealed nothing unusual. Then came the noises. Footsteps upstairs when the rooms were empty, knocks that traveled down hallways, cabinets slamming shut in the middle of the night. At first, Jack and Janet dismissed it. Houses make noises, old plumbing can stink, but as the disturbances grew, they became impossible to ignore. Neighbors began to notice things too. Visitors reported sudden chills inside the home or the smell of rotting meat when no food was cooking. Still, no one jumped to haunting just yet. But the activity escalated in a way no one could explain. By 1974, the disturbances had become aggressive. Objects flew across the room, dishes shattered inside of closed cabinets, furniture slid inches across the floor without anyone touching it. The Smurl's German Shepherd was attacked, picked up by an unseen force and thrown against the wall. Janet herself reported being slapped, scratched, and even shoved. At night, she felt icy hands brush against her skin. And one evening, while folding laundry, she heard a growl, so close it was like someone was standing inches from her ear. When she spun around, there was no one there. Jack experienced worse. He claimed that on multiple occasions he was by what he described as a succubus, a demonic female entity. He described waking up paralyzed, pinned to the bed, with a figure straddling him. Other times, he said the entity dragged him into violent dreams that blurred into reality. Janet also reported being molested by an unseen force. The daughters weren't spared either. The girls heard their names whispered at night. They saw dark shadows flicker across the walls, and one of them claimed to see a faceless black mass standing at the end of her bed. The family described not just one entity but several. Some seemed human, shadowy figures, or fleeting apparition. Others were inhuman. One, in particular, dominated, a large hulking dark presence they believed was demonic. The haunting wasn't just terrifying. It was wearing the family down. By the late 1970s, the Smurls were in a constant state of fear. Jack and Janet were exhausted. Their daughters were terrified to sleep alone. Jack's parents, living in the other half of the duplex, also reported hearing bangs and screams through the walls. By the late 1970s, the Smurls were in a constant state of fear. Jack and Janet were exhausted. Their daughters were terrified to sleep alone. Jack's parents, living in the other half of the duplex, also reported hearing bangs and screams through the walls. But when outsiders visited, the house seemed quiet. This created an atmosphere of isolation. The Smurls began to feel like no one believed them. When they reached out to the Catholic Church for help, they were met with polite skepticism. Priests visited, blessed the home, and left. Nothing changed. The diocese reportedly refused to authorize a full exorcism, claiming there wasn't enough evidence. The family was devastated. Meanwhile, the attacks grew worse. Jack reported being dragged from his bed and beaten. Janet was levitated several inches into the air and then dropped. The daughters were scratched in their sleep. The family heard voices mocking them, laughing at them, and threatening them. The haunting seemed to feed on their suffering. By 1986, the Smurls were desperate. They had lived with this haunting for more than a decade, and nothing they tried seemed to help. The church's blessings provided temporary relief at best. At worst, they seemed to enrage whatever was inside the house. Jack and Janet were devout Catholics, and their faith was one thing that kept them from falling apart completely. But their faith was also what convinced them that this wasn't just a ghost. They believed they were dealing with a demonic entity. And in the 1980s, there was one name that came up anytime someone mentioned demons: Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens were already famous. Their cases included Amityville Horror, Annabelle the Doll, and dozens of other hauntings across New England. They billed themselves as demonologists. Ed, a self-taught expert in the occult, and Lorraine, a clairvoyant who claimed to see spirits. The Smurls reached out, and the Warrens agreed to investigate. When Ed and Lorraine Warren first entered the duplex, Lorraine later claimed she immediately sensed a presence. She described it as a powerful inhuman spirit that fed on the fear and wanted to terrorize the family. Ed believed the haunting wasn't caused by a single entity but several. According to the Warrens, the Smurls' home was occupied by 4 spirits: a harmless old woman, a violent young woman, a man who had been murdered, and a powerful demon that controlled the others. The Warrens set up audio recorders in the home, hoping to capture EVPs, or electronic voice phenomena. According to them, the tapes picked up growls, obscenities, and voices mocking the family. At night, Ed claimed he witnessed objects move on their own. Lorraine said she saw shadow figures lurking in the hallways. But the Warrens weren't just there to document, they wanted to fight back. The Warrens began conducting prayers and blessing inside the house. Ed recited the Ritual Romanum, the Catholic text for exorcism, though he wasn't a priest and had no official church backing. The Smurls said that during these rituals, the house would come alive. Walls shook, loud bangs echoed through the rooms. The stench of sulfur filled the air. On one occasion, Jack claimed he was physically thrown across the room by an unseen force while Ed prayed. Lorraine described the demon manifest as a black mass that seemed to pulse and shift, like smoke with weight. She insisted it wasn't a ghost, it was something much older, much darker. But with the Warrens' involvement came with a price: publicity. By 1986, word of the haunting had spread beyond Pennsylvania. Local reporters caught wind of the story, and soon television crews were knocking on the Smurls' door. The Smurls reluctantly agreed to go public. They believed the church would only take them seriously if the media pressured them to act. Newspapers ran headlines about the haunted duplex in West Pittston. TV stations aired interviews with Jack and Janet, describing their torment in detail. The Warrens gave their own interviews, warning viewers that demonic forces were real and that the Smurls were in danger. The attention was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it gave the Smurls credibility. On the other, it opened them up to ridicule. Skeptics accused them of fabricating the story for attention or money. Neighbors complained about the circus atmosphere, with reporters parked outside and strangers driving by hoping to catch a glimpse of a real haunted house. And the haunting itself didn't stop. Despite the Warrens' efforts, the activity continued to escalate. The family endured more assaults, more growls, more shadows. Jack claimed that the demon still attacked him at night, pinning him down and sexually assaulting him. Janet reported being scratched and slapped. The girls continued to hear whispers calling their names. Finally, the Warrens convinced the Catholic Diocese of Scranton to intervene more directly. Priests performed a series of exorcisms in a home. The first attempt was simple. A priest blessed each room, sprinkled with holy water, and recited prayers. The house felt quiet for a few days. The Smurls thought maybe, finally, it was over. But then, it came back worse than before. The smells returned stronger. Loud bangs shook the house. Jack was attacked again, and this time the scratches carved into his back that took days to heal. 2 more exorcisms followed, each one more elaborate. Priests chanted, burned incense, and evoked the authority of Christ to drive out the spirits.
The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you.
Each time the activity paused, each time it returned. The Smurls described a terrifying pattern. The house would fall silent, almost peaceful, then slowly the disturbances would creep back in. A faint odor here, a whisper there, until one night the violence exploded again. The priests were reluctant to continue. The diocese had never been fully convinced, and after 3 failed exorcisms, officials were even more hesitant to commit resources. Some suggested that the family seek counseling. For the Smurls, this was devastating. They had endured years of torment, gone public with their suffering, brought in the Warrens, and endured scrutiny by the press. And still, nothing changed. The haunting remained. By the late 1980s, the Smurls were on a breaking point. The Warrens had declared that the house was one of the most violent hauntings they had ever seen. Priests had failed. The media had turned their story into a spectacle. Skeptics were circling, ready to tear the entire case apart. And through it all, the Smurls had to still wake up every day, raise their daughters, and live in the home that felt more like a prison. But the haunting wasn't finished with them yet. And that's where we're going to cut it for this first video. The 15,000 word script. It's going to take me a little bit to get through it. I wrote it in 4 different parts, so bear with me while I go through this. The next video will be up soon. But if you like what we're doing here, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know down below what you think of this part of the Smurl case. Really, what we're doing here, we're just going over what the family says happened to them. We're just going over the general information that's available, kind of consolidating it. I'm not going to get into right now any kind of skeptical beliefs or anything like that. We'll save that for another video. I just want to read through what the family actually says happened first before we go all debunker on it and start looking into it skeptically. If you want to support the channel, you can always pick up some merch down below. We got some pretty cool merch. You can also visit the PayPal link in the description of this video or the bio. You can always buy me an energy drink. I'm always appreciative when you guys buy merch or buy me an energy drink, because I love energy drinks. I sleep weird hours for some reason. I'm not getting my sleep schedule is all weird right now. I can't really get back in the raise of it, so I'm kind of living on energy drinks right now to keep me going through the day, but it is what it is. I'll figure it out eventually, but thank you guys so much for viewing, and I will see you next time. Peace out.
Man, I'm thirsty. Might as well have some of this booty sweat I got back in Da Nang.
Fun story about Monster Energy. You see the 3 slashes here? I was once approached by a one of those Christian housewives that like are often out in front of stores, or like they're on street corners and they're just like screaming. Yeah, I was once approached by one because I came out of a gas station holding a monster, and she proceeded to tell me that these 3 slashes are actually 666 in Hebrew, and that Monster Energy is the devil's work. And I don't think about that all the time, but when I do, I just kind of laugh because the name of it is Monster. It's funny. Funny.
He doesn't look too good.